So my time here, it's starting to come to an end as the Peace Corps volunteer, unfortunately. And it's just got me wondering, what is the value of a Peace Corps volunteer? Like you've worked with five or six different ones directly at the school, and before that there have been visiting ones. What do you find the value of a Peace Corps volunteer to be?
Well, I think having a Peace Corps volunteer around, it is something I find is quite beneficial to a school. Um, Number one, well, of course, the volunteer serves as an assistant. I mean, you get somebody who works with you. Um, it may depend. It might be somebody who's alongside you in the classroom. It might be somebody who works maybe in the school library, or working on different projects. So, of course, you get this person who teams up with you. You work on different projects. The aim is, of course, to assist the students, to assist the school. Um, to some extent, it also allows you to be a little more accountable, because you have this person here who's working alongside you. Obviously, you want to give a good account of yourself.
Right.
You
So would
know,
you say you feel an obligation to the volunteer in some way? Like you want to make sure they have a good experience while also they're there to help you?
of course, yes, of
Mm-hmm.
course. I mean, let's look at it. The person is a volunteer. You're living the comfort of your home and your country, wherever it is that you're coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and you're coming over to assist. So I think the least we can do is try to make you comfortable in the space,
Mm-hmm.
be accommodating in terms of ensuring that you have a good working environment, you have somebody that you can relate well to, in trying to work on different projects and so on.
Mm-hmm.
For the ones that we've had, I must say we've had pretty much good experiences. I mean, truth be told, some some have had greater impacts than others, but all in all, generally, I think our school has greatly benefited.
Yeah. And so, I mean, with that, looking at you said you've had better ones than others. And what would you say are like things that a Peace Corps volunteer should watch out for? What do those bad experiences look like? Why have you had bad experiences?
Well, I'm not sure if bad experiences would be the right term,
Mm-hmm.
but um,
So, let's say, what makes a Peace Corps volunteer good? When you think about, some are better than others, why are the better ones better? What's different about them?
I think first of all, we're human.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, you will find that there are some individuals who will come into a new space and just fit right in.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you may have others who, may be a little challenged. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, you're coming from a totally different kind of background, culture, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it does take a bit of adjusting.
Mm-hmm.
People come in with their different personalities. So it's like we have to meet each other halfway. Um, Sometimes some Peace Corps volunteers come in and maybe they 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 get into a place, a situation that probably they were not really too prepared for or not really expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that in itself could pose a challenge based on who the individual is.
Yeah.
So while on the other hand, you may get one who can come in and regardless of the situation, may be able to just fit right in, you know, if you have to compare the two, one is taking more time to adjust,
Yeah.
the other is just, moving along nicely.
Yeah.
Um, for us, like the host school,
Mm-hmm.
the person who is able to adjust a little sooner might have a more pleasant experience. Well, at least at the beginning,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, if I may speak directly to you, Mr. Blaine, um, when we are getting a volunteer, we don't know the person, right? The person comes in, we try our best, you know, to make the person feel welcomed and comfortable. Based on your personality, I can say that you were able to fit in nicely. We have had at least one, two who took a little more time to do that. And we don't necessarily, well, not necessarily, we do not judge the person based on that, because, of course, maybe if it were the reverse, it would be the same thing for us. We're going to a new environment, we have to learn the people around us. There are certain expectations that we may not be too sure of, because even if on paper we know that it's X, Y, and Z, when you get into the situation, it's a different thing. You understand? So for you, I can safely say that I think you were able to move in, and to me, from the get-go, it didn't even feel like you were too new. Of course, yes, you were just coming in,
Right.
but in conversation with you, I felt that it was pretty easy to work with you. Yes, pretty easy to work with you. It didn't take long to understand you and see. For me, it felt like I could come to you with any idea. You listened, you took suggestion. You know, like, it worked well both ways.
Yeah.
Now, not everybody has that personality. So that is why I said, for some people, it's a little more, the experience may be a little more pleasant than others. I don't know if I'm using the right term when I say pleasant.
It's
but,
almost like
you know,
any new member to your team, whether you're talking about a Peace Corps volunteer coming or you're talking about a new teacher starting next year. Some of them are going to fit in well with the culture that you have, and some of them are going to be a little bit more of a challenge, or they're just going to take longer to kind of blend with y'all.
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because I feel like, I mean, I don't feel like my first year was bad, but I definitely feel like my first year I was getting used to really the whole culture down here. Like,
Okay.
I'm very much an introvert. You know, I'm happy to go home at the end of the day and sit in my house, watch news, read books, whatever. I mean, we've talked about how we treat neighbors differently in America versus the Caribbean. And so certainly, like, we worked together on the literacy committee and we had those connections there.
Yes.
But that point of, like, friendship, where you just sort of walk into somebody's room and you sit down and you just start chatting about whatever, I feel like my first year I was very sort of stiff and very focused on the work we were doing. And really, I mean, my second year I started to ease up a little bit, I feel. But it's really been this third year where I really feel like I'm just part of it now.
Now, what I find is that I think you made a conscious effort to change, to change the direction of your experience. Because I remember in conversation, you did tell me that you recognized that your first year, you were a little more to yourself and you wanted it to change.
Yeah.
Now, that in itself is a big step, because you recognize that you needed to move into that direction. Somebody with a different mindset would have just said, well, you know what, I'm here for 2 years. Let me just do what I'm doing at the school and, you know, move on.
Yeah.
But for you, you wanted more than just the school experience and so on. You said you wanted to go out there and, you know, see a little more of what the culture was like, the island generally. So you recognize that and you took the steps, you know, to change that. Yes.
To be honest, I'm really surprised at how much I've done in my third year.
Okay.
Because I've gotten out to more shows. I've gotten out to see more of the culture. You know, little house limes at your house, and these are all things that just aren't typical of me. But like you said, I made that conscious effort. I decided that's what I wanted to do. And once I had that mindset, then going out and finding the opportunities and doing it. You know, I would say a big part was like that Burna Boy concert. I'd never heard of Burna Boy before, didn't care about him, didn't know, but I saw it as like, the problem with going to that concert is that it gets done at 2 in the morning, And my mindset was always, what do I do at 2 in the morning? So I'm just not going to try. And I went out and I bought tickets to the concert because I knew once I spent the money, I was going to figure out how to make it work.
Yes.
And then my plan was just to spend $600 to take a bus back down. But Jessica helped me find the Jean Marie apartments so I could stay up overnight. And you helped me find the driver to take me to the apartments after the show. And it came together. And then after that, like once I'd done it, then it's like I knew it was possible. I knew how to do it. And so going to other shows that I did care about became a lot easier because now I know how it's going to work. I know I'm not just going to get stranded on a park bench and hope I survive until the sun comes up.
Yes, and I think that's a big part of it too. At least taking the risks reasonably, you know. Of course, like you mentioned, you got the guidance from us, but I still think that was bold of you, Mr. Blaine, to like just decide you're going to that show an hour away from, you know, from home, and taking the chance to just go out there and enjoy yourself and so on. I would imagine, like, if you were going with somebody else, then you'd say, well, okay, I'm going to this show with that person and whatever. But you decided to just do your thing, you know, go out there, enjoy yourself, take the risk, do whatever. You also went to the country and western one as well.
Country western one. And by then I knew about the Jean Marie apartments. It was over at the SAB, so I was all set up for, or no, that one was another risk, because that one was at the movie theater.
Yes.
You told me I'd be able to catch a bus at the end of the night. I never caught a bus at 2 in the morning, but I took your advice, and I wouldn't say there were buses running. It seems like what happens is bus drivers go to the show, and they just know people are going to need rides back, so they take fares.
But I think, didn't you get a ride with...
No, I tried to, but then she didn't respond to my text, so I walked over to the bus, and I ended up jumping on a bus, so I ended up just being able to do it that way.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yep.
All right, well, you see...
But I was definitely, like, uncertain about it, but I trust you, and so I went with it, and it worked out.
Okay, nice.
Because I've noticed after the cricket matches, like, you can always get a shuttle up to the cricket match, but at the end of the night, it's just sort of looking for the bus drivers that came and seeing if they're going back to Castries. And so there's that point where there isn't really a structure to it. It's just a matter of trusting that it's going to work out.
Yes. Well, you were brave enough to trust it.
You know, one thing we talk a lot about in the trainings, and that's like a big part of Peace Corps service, is sustainability. The idea is that the work that we do at the school is to build capacity so that when we leave, that work can continue without us. So as you look back on all the volunteers you've worked with, does that sustainability happen, or is it that you get a boost in some area for the years that the volunteer's there, and then it kind of goes away when the volunteer leaves and the next volunteer brings a different skill set that boosts something else?
Actually, I think it depends on the closeness between you as an individual and the volunteer. Of course, generally, the volunteer would have had that impact on the school. For the way that it is organized, I mean, in the past we've had, well, I think that was still the case with you, where we've had the volunteer working closely with at least one classroom teacher and then embarking on particular projects. If you are the teacher who is working alongside the volunteer, then I would imagine that the impact would be greater in terms of how you as an individual may be benefited from that partnership. If you're not the one assigned to work alongside the volunteer, it may not necessarily be the case. But for this time around, I think it was different because you were assigned to work with grade 1. I'm the grade K teacher. But then you ended up being on the literacy committee, which I am a part of. So we found ourselves working quite closely. Added to that, I think because of our personalities and the conversations that we usually have, because one of the things that I really do appreciate is the kind of conversations that we usually have. The self-development, the character building, and all of that. And although you do not work with me on a class basis, but individually, I think I've really grown because of the conversations that we've had. And I've told you that before. Yes, like certain things that, I would look at in one particular way because of our discussions, the books that you would recommend and so on. I think it has really opened my mind, to certain things. And I like it and I do appreciate that. So while we don't work on the class level,
Right.
On a personal level, I think it has really had a very positive impact on me. Literacy wise, I mean, Mr. Blaine, it has really, really been a pleasure.
Yeah.
All of the ideas, and how my mind works sometimes, like the ideas, when they come, they're just flowing.
Yeah.
And with your personality, like you would listen, give the constructive criticism, make the suggestions, tweak it along, and so on. Even my skills with technology, Canva, all of that. So if I have to talk about the experience, I may end up having to talk about the personal impact that it has had.
Yeah.
Maybe way more than just the general, the general impact on the school itself.
Oh, no,
Yes.
and I've definitely appreciated our partnership
Yes.
as well. I feel like all the work we've done together on the literacy committee, I mean, that happened because you're on the literacy committee. Swap you out with any of the other teachers, and I feel like we just wouldn't have done as much because you're the one that gets excited. You're the one that, let's do this, let's have this idea, and then you and I can kind of go back and forth and we can develop it. Like it's the two of us together that really make the literacy committee work. And I've kind of been reflecting myself on kind of that same thought. Like when I think about my time, there's the flashy things I've done. There's the sensory path out there that's going to be there until the rain eventually washes the paint away a long time from now. I think about the pajama nights we do, and I think about the page pilots we've created, and those are all good things. But like that really long lasting impact isn't going to come from all of those things. It comes from the connection. Like you said, you and I have talked. And I know that, as you go forward, after I unfortunately don't get to be here anymore, that whole idea of stories and crucial conversations is something that you're going to continue to carry with you as you move forward.
Definitely.
And I think that's the real lasting impact is like the relationships, the conversations you have, and then the ideas that get sort of accepted and adopted because you built that relationship. Because if you and I didn't really know each other, if, I kind of passed you in the hall sometimes and said hi, and I gave you this book, you're probably not going to open up and read it and be that interested in it. But because we had that rapport, because we've talked about the concept before, all of a sudden that book becomes important to you because, it is something you're interested in and you know what's in there. So I agree. I think the things we tend to point to in service aren't really our legacy. Our legacy falls within the relationships, and it's not seen as well, but that's what each individual carries with them, right? Whether or not I was a good Peace Corps really just depends on how well I connected with you. You're going to see me as a great Peace Corps, whereas some other teacher that I might not talk to that much sees me as just another one that passed through the school.
It's so true. It's so true. It's so true. And like you said, you see, sometimes it's the little things that really, really matter. Like you said, we did Page Pilot and we did Pajama Nights and we did we worked on so many exciting projects. I'm sure the children will remember them, yes.
Absolutely.
But if there was no connection and there was no individual growth on my part, when you have left and maybe Page Pilot is no more, then there wouldn't be much left, of the what you left behind. But the fact that you had that impact on who I am as an individual, that I will continue carrying with me.
Yeah.
Right? The sharing of the ideas, the kinds of conversations that I have with other people, what I take from it, you know, how I respond to certain things. These are things that I carry on with me, you know, day after day after day. So I'm grateful that we were able to work on all of these school projects, and I'm even more grateful that I got to meet you and learn from you and share with you and grow from the
Yeah.
whole experience.
And I feel the exact same way. Like you are definitely a part of why this has been a good 3 years and why I want to stay beyond my time. So, looking at the next volunteer that comes along, we just got 12 new ones on the island. What sort of advice would you give them? Like, what do they need to know right now to be able to have a successful 2 years?
I think one of the things is to be confident in who you are and what you bring to the table. Because of course you're coming to a new environment. Maybe the ideas that you have, you might feel that they're not like readily accepted. And I'm pretty sure it may not be a case where the ideas are not accepted. It may just be a case where it takes a little getting used to. Sometimes it may require a little change in the thinking, and not everybody is receptive to change, you know, at least like right away. So it's like you're just confident in yourself, be who you are, know what you're here for, you know, and you stand for something. If this is who you are, this is who you are. Of course, you will be working with many different people. Not everybody will just bond with you, but at least, you know, there will be that mutual respect. Because we may not be able to sit and chit chat and all of that, but when it comes to the professional stuff where we work on school projects and whatever, you know, we're able to work together and so on. Not everybody will be able to extend it to outside of the school. It may happen, it may not happen, you know, but at least you know what you're there for, you're positive about it, and I'm sure you will get, you know, one, two people who, well, if not the whole school, who will tag along with you and make it a very pleasant experience.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and where I'm fortunate, like I had a nice background in education before I came. Some of the volunteers come from project management, or maybe they're some corporate executive, or they've got all different backgrounds. It's not always a teacher that comes down. Do the non-teachers have value? Is there something that they can do at their site? Like, what would you say to the people that don't have all of that teaching experience?
Well, I mean, you're coming into a school. So while you may not have that teaching background, but there is still a lot that goes on at the school. I mean, there are different projects that you work on. So if you're into project management, then those skills can be used there. You may be very good at organizing stuff, seeking sponsorship and so on. So whereas your strength may not necessarily lie in the classroom, like the academic stuff, I'm pretty sure, you know, there will be some good use for you in other aspects of the school life, you know.
It's a matter of finding where do your experiences meet the skill gaps at the school, because there's a reason the Peace Corps brought you down. They think that there's something you can add to the school, and just because you're not some veteran teacher, something else you do well might work.
Yes.
When I look at the literacy committee, like I think my real value there is just organization, like meeting facilitation. I asked us if we wanted to meet consistently because that's what I'm used to doing. Y'all said, sure, let's meet every other week. And those constant meetings helped. And then, you know, I created the agendas for them. In fact, it's interesting because we agreed to meet every other week. And then the first time we were supposed to meet after that initial meeting, so our second meeting, I had to miss it because I had a meeting with my counterpart. So I came to you to get the notes, and then you said you'd forgotten that there was a meeting, Everybody else forgot, but you thought it was important for us to have the meeting, so you went and gathered everybody up. And then because I was the only person that remembered there was a meeting, you all looked to me for the agenda. So I just sort of took us through it. And from there, I was kind of like, my role was to remind us of the meetings and to have the agendas so that we stay productive in them.
And that's another thing too, Mr. Blaine, because you see, you brought in that part of your culture, which was not necessarily what we were used to, but we saw the value in it and we adopted it. Well, sadly, you continued taking on that role, you know.
Yeah.
I tried and failed, you know. I mean, it took a bit of getting used to, consistency, discipline,
Yeah.
you know. So, like you said, your organization skills, your tech skills as well. Don't forget that one.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
your tech skills as well.
Yeah.
And I think teaching as well, because I know you're doing a wonderful job with the Read Write program with the other students.
Oh, definitely. My
yes.
teaching background has helped at the school. I'm just thinking like literacy committee specifically.
Okay.
I feel like my greatest value was things outside of education.
Okay, I get you. Yes. Before you came along, our meetings were not necessarily so structured because, of course, there's nobody really overseeing it. You know, we would just meet and discuss our stuff and follow up on it and do whatever it is that we had to do. But then with you coming in with your way of knowing how it's done, you know, you with you, it was very structured.
Yeah.
We had our 12:30 start time, and most times you'd come by the window and ask by the door and ask me, you know, Nelta, are you joining us today? And then that's the time I would remember, oh my goodness, it's already 12:30, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things I appreciated is the way that you came, because it's like, okay, at the beginning, to me, it's like every single time you had to come to check to see if I was going to join. Yes, but I never once saw any frustration or anything like that, you know. Now, with you coming that way, it forced me to step up. That's what it did. It forced me to you did not have to apply any force to get me to do it. But just by you being who you are, you know, who you were at the time, I just had to tell myself, okay, you know, I mean, this has to stop. Come on now. You know, check the clock, and when it's the time, don't let the man have to come and check you every time. You know, it's like I had to reflect and say, I mean, meet the gentleman halfway at least, you know. Yeah, so it forced me to step up. The agenda and the note-taking part, I could not keep up. Mr. Blaine, you do an amazing job with that. I couldn't keep up. But then you see, while that was not my strength, I mean, I was still able to pull my weight and get whatever work done and do what we had to do. So it's like we came together nicely. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, but we just made it work.
Yeah, and that's it, I think. Looking again back to those volunteers that don't come with an education background, what are your strengths? And just fit them into the school, because I'm sure whatever your strengths are, there's a way that those strengths can value the school.
Yes, and that's the other thing. Don't be afraid to put it out there. You know, we know you were not a teacher before coming over, but that's not all, you know, that you can offer. Whatever it is that you can offer, you know, like we say, whatever you can do, just make sure you're good at it. It's the same thing. That's what you bring to the table. Well, bring it. Let us know that's what it is. And then we just use whatever it is that is there, you know, and we learn from each other. You may not start off by coming in with that education background and, you know, going directly into the classroom and doing whatever. But I'm pretty sure by the end of the 2 years, you would have been able to contribute something right there. We all started somewhere. You know, while we use your strength and get something going, you can develop, you know, your teaching skills. Because, of course, I mean, you're joining the staff. You know, you'll be open-minded about it. If you want to learn it, you can learn it. You know, it's just teamwork, collaboration, and we can get it done. By the time you know it, at the end of the 2 years, you may end up being a super teacher right there. You know? Yes.